Who do you think is the most important person in your town or state? In every society, there are certain people who are more powerful and influential than others. In the Middle Ages, they didn't have elections the way modern democracies do today. The important people in the Middle Ages were those who controlled land. These were the kings, lords, and knights who fought for the kings. Therefore, the people close to the king, especially the nobility, were the ones who had the most important jobs. The system that developed around the most powerful people is called feudalism. Feudalism appeared first in Charlemagne's time. Over time, it gradually spread across medieval Europe. Feudalism arose because kings often needed warriors to fight for them. These kings made deals with powerful leaders or lords. A lord would become a king's vassal. The king would give him a large amount of land, called a fief, and each would make certain promises to the other. The vassal would swear to fight loyally for the king. In return, the king promised to protect and support the vassal. Feudal government was not like our modern government. During the Middle Ages, there were no nations or central governments in the modern sense. Instead, there were networks of lords and vassals under the rule of a king. And the promises or oaths that vassals swore were what held these networks together. The links between vassals and lords encouraged people to think of themselves as part of a larger whole. Feudal agreements were meant to last. These agreements were made public with special ceremonies held in a church and arranged by kings and priests. The ceremony in which a man became a vassal was called an act of homage. Homage is the French word for honor or respect. Let's time travel back to the Middle Ages and watch as a medieval lord pays homage to a king. Imagine being in a cathedral lit by hundreds of flickering candles. There are beautiful windows of stained glass and paintings and sculptures. The altar is made of carefully carved wood. Sitting in the cathedral are all the great lords of the kingdom and their families. They are dressed in their finest robes and jewels. At the front stands the king, waiting to receive his vassal. A lord walks slowly down the center aisle of the cathedral. When he reaches the king, he falls to his knees and swears an oath. He promises to love and serve the king forever. The king then raises the kneeling man to his feet and announces that he is giving land to the Lord. This in exchange for the Lord's promise of loyalty and other services. The king kisses his new vassal on the cheek in a kiss of peace. But feudalism was more than just the relationship between the king and his lords. The king's lords would also divide up part of their land and grant fiefs to vassals of their own. For example, the king's lords would grant portions of their land to lesser lords and to other soldiers called knights. Feudal loyalties held law and order in place within a kingdom, but there were few laws shared across different kingdoms. Individual lords made their own laws and enforced them in their own fiefs. The one law that extended across Europe was the sacred oath of loyalty that a vassal took. If a vassal failed to serve his lord or betrayed his lord, he became an outlaw, shunned and persecuted by other lords. Over the years, these noble titles and arrangements were inherited. This means that they were handed down from father to son. For example, if a father were a duke, earl, baron, count, or marquis, his son might get that title when the father died. The families who held fiefs became the nobility of Central and Western Europe. As nobles, they had special privileges that other people did not have. You will learn how feudalism in the Middle Ages provided a way for people to make a living. Feudalism also created a culture of knights, battles, and honor that is still remembered today.